Hello, this is Grant Cameron. I'm here in my home city of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I'm standing along the Red River, which runs through the city in a north-south direction. In this direction, we go down towards the United States and North Dakota. And if we go into the north, we see the Winnipeg downtown, where the second river intersects into the Red River. And that river is called the Assiniboine. Later on this year, I will be going down the river when it gets cold, and I'll be heading for the junction of the two rivers, which is called the Forks. There's a long skating rink that is created on the river, which runs for miles. So we'll go on the river at this point, and we'll move down the river to the Forks. My ancestors were one of the first people to come to Winnipeg, and at that time, the land was all owned by the natives. And we basically took the land from them. And now if you go down to the Forks, it's all owned, big construction, big buildings, and the Aboriginals, the natives, are now just visitors to land that they once owned. The reason I bring this up is that today, the biggest story in ufology is the story of the Nimitz. This is an encounter that took place in November of 2004 off the coast of California. And the reason it's so important to the US military is that the objects were there. There's nothing the military could do about it. And from a number of reports, the objects were interfering with US military operations off the coast. The interesting part of this is that, like the land at the Forks, the land in California is actually not American land. Prior to 1848, the location where the Nimitz incident occurred was Mexican land. It was owned by Mexico. Before 1492, the land was owned by the Aboriginals, the natives. And before then, it was owned by nobody. The idea that we own land is an illusion. Nobody owns the land off of California. And the proof of that is simple. In 100 years, we'll all be gone. We will give back everything we think that we presently own. The land here, the land in California, is owned by nobody. We are just visitors. We are just caretakers of the land. So the idea that we own the land, and that if UFOs, if extraterrestrials, aliens come here, that they are interfering with our land, this is an illusion. Nobody owns the land. The reason I bring this up is that the main idea that's being put out now in order to get funding for UFO research is the idea of a threat. That there are extraterrestrials who are coming to this world and who are a threat. A number of people have expressed this. A number of people associated with the research into the Nimitz have said they interfered with US military operations and we have to do something about them. There are many people in the government, often referenced as the Collins elite. It's a group of high-level intelligence people who firmly believe that the UFO phenomena is demonic and that we will not research it because we do not want to invite demons into our world. There are a number of people in the UFO community who also believe that the UFOs are a threat. Tom DeLonge, who is the main figure in the most popular disclosure movement in the present time, states UFOs are bad news. This may be true, it may not be true. The point of this whole discussion is that we have a problem with disclosure. A lot of people want disclosure to be done and for the government to announce that there are extraterrestrials, aliens, some off-world force that is here interacting with our society. The problem with this is that when disclosure is made, there will be a group of people, and it won't be 1% or 5% or 10%. It'll be a very high group of people who will maintain absolutely that this is a threat and that we must shoot down the objects. The idea will be made that this is our airspace. We own the airspace. They are interfering with our airspace, and we have no choice whatsoever but to start shooting. A number of years ago, in 1956, a very popular radio broadcaster by the name of Frank Edwards made a speech in Detroit. And in that speech, he made the claim that he had talked to Albert Einstein, that he knew what Albert Einstein had told the president with regards to the overflight of UFOs in 1952 over Washington, D.C. A number of people had telegrammed the president because the president had put down a shoot-down order for anything that would not identify itself in land, to shoot down anything that went over the Capitol. Edwards claimed that Einstein had gone to the president and also warned him, Mr. President, do not shoot them down. And what Frank Edwards, who had 10 million listeners in the 1950 radio show that he ran, stated that Mr. Einstein said to the president, Mr. President, any society that can come across millions of miles of space will know what to do and how to protect themselves once they get here. Don't start something you can't finish. And according to Frank Edwards, this is the first time that Give 'em Hell Harry decided it'd be better not to give him any hell. And he stopped the shoot-down order. We are in the same situation where if we start shooting, we get in a situation where we probably do not have the resources to take down whatever it is that is interacting with us. We have a situation where we have massive defense budgets, and the defense budget would balloon astronomically if we decide to get into a war with off-planet species. The Russian defense budget, I was just reading this morning, had gone down last year for the first time to $60 billion. The increase in the American defense budget just in the last year was more than $60 billion. We are spending money at a tremendous rate, describing numerous threats around the world that are threatening us. So the day of disclosure will be a very trying time. It'll be a very decisive time when we may actually get in a situation where we create a lot of harm, where, as Wernher von Braun said, this will be the final threat that will drive defense budgets up. I don't think there's anything we can do. I really don't see any way of changing the idea that people will believe this is an evil force. The only thing that may save us is the fact that there's some discussion, which I seem to agree with, that we really do not have the technology we think we have, that the intelligence behind the phenomena has technology that's so far advanced beyond what we have that they are still controlling the situation, and they are in control of disclosure, and they are not going to really allow disclosure to take place. That may be our only hope.